This episode of Truth Table is brought to you by 10 by 10, a movement dedicated to helping faith matter more to 10 million young people over the next 10 years. Through innovative resources and collaborative efforts, 10 by 10 supports youth discipleship across diverse communities. Visit 1010.org and follow at 10 by 10 Collab on social media to learn more and join the movement. Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right? If this is your first time at Truth Table, welcome to the table. And if you've been sitting at the table with us all these years, we are so grateful that you have been listening to us through these years, and we are inviting you to partner with us and support our work at patreon.com/truthstable. Now pull up a chair and have a seat at the table with us.
So we're excited to be back at Truth Table with Teens at the Table, y'all. And this has been a real blessing as we've gotten to hear from some awesome teenagers who have been sharing with us their perspective about a variety of topics. They have been getting us together. So we have another great panel, and we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to the heart of Truth Table, which is justice. You know, we don't shy away from this topic. We believe our God is a God of justice. And for several years, since 2017, we have been very clear about what we believe is the Christian calling and commitment to justice, not just things that impact us, but justice for all of humanity. And so I cannot wait to hear from the two different panels that we're going to have. They're going to talk about this topic of justice from their perspective. And so we're grateful to be able to hear it today. And so welcome again, y'all. Welcome, panelists.
Hi.
So this is the first thing we do to get the party started, okay? You are going to introduce yourself to the audience who are listening and hoping to learn from you. You're going to tell us how old you are. And also, why did you want to be on a panel talking about justice? You want to start us off?
Yes, I am Trinity, and I'm 15 years old.
You want to take the next question? Why did you want to be on the panel?
Oh, sorry. Because I feel like it would be a very eye-opening experience, and I get to learn more.
Absolutely. So not only here to share, but to learn what's also on the panel.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that.
My name's Camille, and I'm 12, and basically the same thing Trinity said, eye-opening experience.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
My name's Michaela, and I'm 11, and I really wanted to just talk about the topic in general because I feel like there hasn't been a lot of justice going on in the world lately. So,
Well, thank you, Michaela. So I want to start with this question. This question. It's not quite a warm-up question because it can be weighty, but I don't want you to put too much pressure on yourself. So as it comes to you, just go on and hit it back, okay? Whatever comes to mind is what I want you to share. So we're going to use the word justice a lot, but I am curious about, what does justice mean to you? What's your definition of what justice is?
My definition would be equality for all, no matter skin tone, race, anything, just justice and everybody, cohabitating together and everybody being equal.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Kind of same thing that Trinity said, but like peace for everyone, everyone living together, being happy, stuff like that.
Awesome. Also, the word that comes to mind, Camille, when I hear you talk is a Hebrew word called shalom, right? And so and included in shalom is justice, like things that are wrong being made right. But people having real true peace, right? Not a superficial peace. Thanks so much. All right, Michaela.
to me, justice means about the same things that Camille and Trinity said, but also to me, it also means that everybody gets a chance to have the same opportunities, and there's no discrimination against people for stuff that they can't change, but you only judge people by their actions. So
that's excellent. I mean, I feel like Trinity, you talked about equality, but Michaela, you talked about what you described. What I heard was something called equity, right? People having what they need, honoring their experiences for them to be able to thrive. So that's awesome. That was a great definition. So here's the first one, working with the definitions that you all have given to make us much sharper. What are the justice issues that matter most to you and your friends that you want to tell us about?
I would say probably that matter.
Yeah, to
That
you.
matter.
What matters to you?
Probably that matter to me, like racism,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of that, and probably bullying, because everybody needs justice in everything. If I'm being honest, and both of them together is kind of it's very bad.
Very
both of them
bad.
together is really
Yeah.
bad. But
So racism, and you also said bullying in both of those things. And then you also said when you put them together, it's
Yeah.
really bad. So when I hear you say that, do you have examples or that
Like-
you have seen or observed about both racism and bullying together?
I have a kid at my school. He's Jamaican and he's a lot darker than everybody else, and everybody always picks on him.
Mm.
And it's like really bad to see. And I don't know, it's just very like, I don't know, it just makes me like upset sometimes, because I'm like, he's like all of us, he just different color, like
Yeah.
that's it, like we all black, well not all of us, but
Yeah.
we're all in my school for majority black,
Yeah.
but most of us are black, so
Mhm.
I don't know why y'all picking on somebody darker than y'all if he's like us.
Yeah.
literally. So I don't really believe in tearing each other down.
Yeah. So we call that colorism,
Yeah.
right? And so there's obviously racism when we think about racial groups, but colorism is the way in which we might give more access, privilege, or acceptance to people the closer they look to white in our culture, right? And so, which means the further they look from that, we might deny them what is due to them, which is dignity, right, as a human being. And so that has been going on for a really long time. But it says that you describe feeling like you didn't use words, like you were like,
Yeah, like it's.
but
very
can you give
sad.
words to you? Like, what does that mean?
Like it's like very upsetting and very like saddening, and
Mm.
like it just makes me upset to see like just seeing that happen to like your own people. And not only that, you can't just like imagine like how they're feeling, like I'm just like I can't even imagine like how they're feeling when that happens. Like imagine somebody picking on you and they look just like you,
Yeah.
and because you're like, wait, like you look like me, why are you picking on me? We look just alike.
Yeah.
Like we basically the same. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I mean, Trinity, I would call that a holy response.
Yeah.
Because we're made in the image of God. And so when we mock other human beings, you can imagine a holy God being like, ugh, you know?
So, yeah.
And so that is the right response to injustice. We have to figure out what to do next. But thanks so much for sharing that. Camille, how about you? What are the justice issues that matter most to you and to your friends?
I feel like racism and sexism
Hmm.
are two that really matter to me and my friends.
So talk a little bit about, since Trinity kicked us off with racism and also a little bit about colorism too, but can you talk a little bit about sexism and how you think about that and what does that mean to you?
Like I have some examples, like when people say, "Oh, he's bullying you because he likes you," or like when boys just like make fun of girls because the way they look, or like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so giving people a pass
Yeah.
to be unkind and then acting like it's a form of flattery, right?
Yeah.
And you can see sexism in that, right?
Yeah.
That's a really great example and a really common one too. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Michaela, it's up to you. So what would you say are issues around justice that really matter to you and maybe folks that are your age?
Well, my answer isn't exactly gonna be like Camille's or
Yeah.
Trinity.
It's your
but-
answer.
I feel like right now in the world, if some of you haven't heard, Trump has been like deporting people, and sometimes he doesn't even send them back to their home country. So I feel like that's really unfair for the people who have been working for like their green card, or they just want a refresh or new start, and I feel like that's just really that's not equal,
Yeah.
because even though they might be immigrants, that doesn't mean that they're not people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a strong sense of that's wrong. The experience that some migrants are having with deportation, and even deportation to places that aren't even their home country or their country of origin. So thank you for bringing that up, right? And the thing about it is when it comes to justice issues, we can be compelled around all kinds of topics that relate to us specifically, but also topics that relate to our neighbor, right? And that's what it means to have compassion and to be able to see other people. So here's my next question. Y'all are warmed up and y'all are doing great. How does your faith, so what you believe about Jesus, how does your faith shape the way you think about justice? But especially, let's pick a topic like racial justice. How does your faith shape what you believe about something like racial justice?
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So, can I use myself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my faith as a Christian teaches me that people, all people, the ones I like and the ones I don't like, are made in the image of God. And my faith also teaches me about a human being that's fully God, fully man, Jesus, that chose to come to the world as a brown-skinned Palestinian man, experienced what it meant to be a sojourner in Egypt, to not have citizenship, right? And to have to hide, and to be mistreated by the state, by the Roman Empire, and to die the death of a slave. And so when I look at the life of Jesus, for me, it makes me mindful that Jesus chose to be in solidarity, not look down on, but to stand with people who would be seen on the bottom in the world. And that causes me to also want to give everyone dignity and to give everyone respect. So that shapes how I see those things. I look to Jesus and I look at what Jesus did and who Jesus is, and it compels me, one, to have pride and dignity in who I am, but also to be mindful of other people's stories as well. So that's how my faith shapes my convictions on that. But yours could look different, right? And so what would you say? And again, you don't have to give a complete answer because we're all growing and learning together. But as you think about it today, how does your faith, how does what you believe within your religious beliefs shape what you might think about something like racism?
I don't necessarily have like a full like set stone answer.
Yeah, not yet. You're working on it.
Like, I mean, yeah, I'm working on it because I mean, like you said, like I see people as people. Like I don't see. Well, obviously, when I do look at somebody, I see like color because I can see like, oh yeah, like that.
Yeah.
That color. But I don't necessarily think of them differently because we're all human and we're all, I mean, yeah. So I don't really think of nobody different.
Yeah. So you don't think of them as, by different, I think you mean, are you saying like you don't think of them as less?
Yes, I don't think of them as less.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Camille, how about you? How do your beliefs, whatever they might be, how do they cause you to think about something like racial justice?
Like to me, I feel like God and Jesus, they would want us to like treat others the way that we want to be treated. Mm-hmm. So I feel like by people like treating someone differently because their skin tone, like that's not what he wanted us to do. That's not what he intended for us to do.
Yeah. So that's not what love and respect look like, right? So that's excellent. Kayla, how about you? How does what you believe about your faith cause you to think about injustice like racism?
Because so what I think about it is that my belief is that Jesus came down to earth even though he didn't have to live a life of a slave even though he could have lived a life of a king.
Yes.
So I feel like if it's wrong to discriminate against others because they're forced to like do stuff or there's things that they can't change about themselves because God never made the world so then he could just go around. He made the world so then they could praise and worship him, and so then there would be love and friendship and kindness and mostly just positive things. Mm-hmm. And right now the world's really going off of that and it's really negative and it's been really hard and a challenge to be yourself when a lot of people will discriminate against you.
Thank you so much for sharing that and also reminding us of like of God's higher purposes of love, right? And compassion in the world. Okay, so here's our next question. And I've been asking you to use your voice, right? But have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter in conversations about justice? And what would help change that?
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah. Cause since I do flag football, it's a lot of the stuff that goes in with doing football. A lot of people, like the sexist thing, people assume that I don't know. They assume a lot of things about me because I play flag football, and I don't know. I just don't know how to explain it. Like, it's very frustrating too.
So there's a
'Cause
stereotype
it's a
because that's the sport
stereotype.
that you like to do.
It's a sport that I like to do as a female. A lot of boys play football and stuff, and they expect girls to just do cheer and all that other stuff. And I'm like, nah, like, I don't do flag.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain. Like, it's very challenging to like voice my opinion on a lot of stuff because they're like, hey, like, yeah, you do this. So I don't know how to, take your word for it or anything like that. Especially when it's something about my sport.
Okay.
And I've had like a lot of instances where like people don't necessarily like care for our voices when we're like speaking about something, especially like if incidents happen and such, like principals, like people don't necessarily want to hear what we have to say because technically flag football isn't like it's a sport, but it's not like a sport you can see on like the main thing. But yeah,
So it may not have a large platform.
it might not have a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
really
have a large
public.
platform. Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm hearing you say that when you speak up about different things related to your sport or related to your experience or how you're being treated, you feel like sometimes there are people who don't want to hear you.
Yeah, they don't.
Right. And would that include grown-ups?
Yes, they're all grown ups.
Especially includes grown-ups. Especially includes grown-ups. Okay. Well, let me let you all chime in too. So have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter in conversations about justice? And so you can answer that, but also the other part is, what can we do to change that? What advice would you give people who need to listen to what you have to say?
I feel like with like most adults, they don't like listen to us because like we're children. So like they think that we don't know what we're talking about because like whenever we try to talk to them about stuff like that, they think, oh, they're just reading off what they heard on the internet or reading off what they heard on the news. They don't really know what they're talking about.
Got you. So they minimize your perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Michaela, how about you? What would you say?
For me, no shade to my parents. I know that they're trying to help me.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like, even with little things like sports, like when I try to decide on a sport that I want to do, or if I just don't want to do any sports, I feel like they kind of don't really pay attention to what I decide, and they kind of just choose for me. And I know that they think that that will teach me to try new things. But really, all I'm really receiving is that my decisions don't really matter to the people that I love the most. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Look, and that's what we call a rebuke. I mean, you did that really well. It was gentle, but it was like, hey, my opinions do matter. And people who love me a lot, we expect for them to be able to listen to what you're saying as well. I think people are going to want to hear that. Here's my last question, okay? And when I say church, I don't just mean like maybe the place that you go on a Sunday, right? Like your specific church. I'm talking like bigger, broader, like capital C church, right? And again, my guess is you haven't been to all the churches in the world like I haven't, right? But it's okay to say exactly what you think. You're giving your opinion. So do you believe the church is doing enough when it comes to standing up for justice? Why or why not?
Some churches do. But the other churches, I feel like they don't do as much because a lot of them have their different points of view of stuff. So like a lot of other churches are racist, a lot of them are sexist, and they might not let people inside the church. So I don't necessarily feel, I don't know. Because a lot of churches do their best. And I would say my church, the Park, y'all did y'all thing. Y'all did y'all thing. And I really do love it. But a lot of other churches, they don't do as much, and they should. They should.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. What would you say, Camille?
Like Trinity said, it depends on the church and also depends on the topic, I feel like, because some churches, they don't really like talk about that stuff, or it depends on the topic.
And when they do, and if a church does talk about that kind of stuff, where would you be most likely to hear it? And where do you think they should talk about issues of justice? Like, when would that happen?
I feel like you would be most likely to hear it in like specific ministries about that specific topic. Because like some churches, they have specific ministries for that topic. And I feel like, what was the question again?
Yeah, the question was, is the church doing enough around justice?
I feel like most churches are, but like I feel like there are some churches that aren't.
Got you. And when you say ministries, do you mean like a ministry designed to help a specific group? So like, for example, if people are refugees and relocating to the United States, there might be a ministry to help people to find all the things they need when they come here. You mean
Yeah.
ministries like that? Okay, excellent. All right, Michaela. So this is the big question. Do you believe that the church is doing enough when it comes to justice? Yes or no? And what should they be doing?
Again, not throwing any shade to any of the churches out there, but I feel like some of them don't really focus on like justice for like no offense, but like other races, like maybe Asian, Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, any of those, because I feel like some churches, they focus on like the race of the founders, like and like I feel like they lean into like a stereotype, like a black church or a white church or like a Spanish church or like an Asian church. And I feel like they don't really like branch out like as like a church, but they branch out as like a race church, like. So yeah, and I feel like they don't really focus on justice for like youth, like teens or like really like preteens or the people in the middle or like younger kids, because I feel like they mostly focus on the adults and they kind of act like us children don't also need justice in our lives, because like I guess it's just because like we're at a younger age and they think that everything's like an easy breeze for us and we don't have to worry about anything. But there's actually way more problems that the adults don't focus on, that we need justice for. And I feel like the churches, like some churches that don't do this, actually have to focus a little bit more on the teens and the preteens, because that's the time where they need the most like support and help by finding their like way in life, because that's the transition from a kid to like an adult.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what you said is it's hard to hear, but I think a lot of it's really true. So I'm really grateful for our entire panel. So you're our opening conversation about justice, and we've got another panel that's going to come up. But give it up for our panel today, y'all. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
10 by 10 is a movement committed to working together with churches, denominations, and Christian organizations to create a healthier Christian ecosystem where young people's faith can thrive. 10 by 10 focuses on providing the resources that faith communities need to prioritize youth discipleship. By working collaboratively with over 100 organizations, 10 by 10 aims to raise youth discipleship to a top priority for ministry leaders. Visit 1010.org and follow at 10 by 10 Collab on social media to learn more. Together, we can inspire and uplift the next generation in their faith journey.
So we are back at Teens at the Table, y'all. And our first segment, you saw the young women who were telling us about their definition and understanding of justice and the church's role. They had some really important things to say to us, and I hope we take heart of what the wisdom that they put on the table for us today. Now we're joined by our all-male panel. Hey, brothers.
Hey, how you doing?
And they're going to introduce themselves, tell you their age, and then I'm going to have them start off the same way. They're going to give us kind of what they believe their definition of justice is, or how do they know when justice is even happening, right? So they're going to take that question up. But first, let's let them introduce themselves to you and tell you their age.
Hi, I'm Nigel. I'm 18 years old.
Awesome.
I'm John. I'm 15 years old.
I'm Jay. I'm 17 years old.
Awesome. So this definition of justice, right? So when I say that, what comes to mind for you? How would you describe what justice is to someone?
I think I describe justice as just fighting for what's right, when not being forced to do it, like you want to do it of your own volition because you want to be the change that you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. I think we need more people like that, because not everybody is willing to step up and take that center stage and fight for a cause that they believe in. But I think that's important to have, especially right now. There's a lot going on in the political sphere. I think we just need more young voices really to kind of step up and just help be the change that they want to see.
Awesome. Thanks for kicking us off, Nigel. How about you, John?
I think justice is the right thing happening and people fighting to do the right thing in every scenario, even if wrong had been done in the past. Because justice can be correcting injustice, even if you're not actually like acting and doing something. You can just like speak out against injustice, and that in of itself is justice. So it's just doing the right thing, in my opinion.
Awesome. That's a really helpful definition. I've got some more questions about it for both of you all. But how about you, Jay?
I agree with doing the right thing, but it can also be really complicated at times because everyone has like their own sense of justice,
That's right.
and depending on the situation, it's not always easy to determine what's right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Right. And for some people, when they think about justice, they think of this imagery that we even get from the Old Testament of Scripture about something being crooked, like a path being crooked, but being made like level, straight, and clear. And I'm wondering, when we use the word like made right, how do we know? Like, and how do you know? Let's just start with you, because you only speak for yourself, right? How do you discern what is right or wrong, or right enough in an imperfect world? And on an issue of justice, how do you determine what is right, and what are the things that help shape your imagination or opinion of that?
I think most of it is based off of your morals and how you lead your life and how you want to carry yourself. So right for somebody might not be how another person or another group of people view something as being right or being like the proper thing to do. So it all just depends on perspective, really, and how you perceive a situation and what you think is the right thing to do in that moment, because not everybody's going to think that doing the right thing is on the same path as you. So it's really just about how you perceive different situations.
Got you. John, how about you? What would you say about this idea of figuring out like what's right and what helps you to make sense of that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's shaped by experience and circumstance. Like if like a child is born to a family where like everyone's like hating a specific type of people, then they're going to think that that's the right thing to do if no one tells them that it's wrong. If they never get that experience, then they're going to keep doing it. So I feel like it's shaped by your moral compass, like internally, but it's also shaped by your circumstances mostly.
Your perception of what is right and wrong, right?
Yes.
Is shaped by how you've been raised and socialized.
Yes.
That's helpful. How about you, Jay?
I agree with all that, but I also think it's shaped by like how society is at the time, because over the years society has evolved. Like what was okay 100 years ago is frowned upon now, and some things we do now nobody would have thought of back then. So I feel like over time society just kind of changes, and definition of justice kind of changes with that.
Are there things that come to mind, like that example that you just gave, that how the social environment shapes people's imagination about what's right or wrong? Are there things that come to mind? So you said like maybe 100 years ago or more, there's something that people may not have thought was wrong, or something that is happening today that people would be surprised by. What are examples that you would give?
I feel like one of the biggest examples would be like slavery. Then in addition to that, also like how governments were run at the time. It was like back then a lot of governments were like kings and queens, or like even some churches like made all the rules, whereas now we have like laws and everyone's mostly equally represented.
Or at least they're supposed to be. That's what we say, right? And so in the past, I think you're giving examples of like maybe like a monarchy or a kingdom, and now you have societies that are trying or are at different levels of like democracy. I feel like what you're describing. Okay, gotcha. Anybody else?
Yeah, I feel like slavery would be a pretty like good example of that. Like it was just like the norm back then 100 years ago, especially in our country. And it's just like what was seen as right maybe by some people, but it was seen as very, very wrong by others who were the victims of it.
Sure.
So now it's mostly frowned upon, hopefully. And so
yes, we want people to frown upon that. Yes.
and so it's like it can shift over time.
Sure.
But
and Nigel, how about you? Anything come to mind, or would that resonate with you as well, what you just heard?
Yes. I don't even think it even has to go back as far as 100 years. I think some of it can even go as far back as like 15, 20, 25 years ago.
Sure.
With how prominent technology and AI has become over the last couple years, and how it's a pretty big part of a lot of people's lives. And I think also just the idea that the government is very hands-on with a lot of stuff, and then some people feel like the government is just, they don't have the best interest of the people in mind, and how they feel like they're being observed a lot of times with different stuff. So I think like if you told people 10 years ago that like television programs were going to be putting up like AI commercials, like intentionally, I don't think they would have believed you. And then it's just going to keep growing from there and become an even bigger part of our lives as the months and the years continue.
Yeah. I mean, now that you raise a really interesting point, I mean, I feel like we could go into a whole nother panel about AI. What does that mean? But John, I was just listening to you talk about how, 100 plus years ago, people's view of something like enslavement, the way people would have seen that. And then you mentioned that there's a group who, like the people that it was happening to, and then maybe some others who were like, this is wrong. What do you think shapes the worldview of people who disagree with the social norm and have a sense of like, I just think this is wrong, right? So the people, obviously the ones experiencing it, but 150 years ago, the people who would have said, I think this is wrong for other reasons and gone against the grain. What are some of the things that shape people to have those types of convictions that can sometimes be completely against what the social norm is?
Yeah. I, for one, believe like I couldn't really see like it just like you can just turn on the dime. Like everybody's like keeping slaves, like buying people from other countries to work for them. And you just think that that's wrong, even if you're not the one being affected by it. I feel like it's just like God given if someone is like that compassionate to people who are seen as below you, even if you don't believe that yourself. Like it'd be so easy to just go with the flow and just like keep the norms, and especially if they benefit you. So I feel like it takes a lot of guts and a sense of justice, a positive sense of justice, to be able to say, hey, that's wrong, even if you're hurting yourself, kind of.
Yeah. So in order to go against the social norm that could be convenient or lucrative, it could be how you get paid.
Yes.
It sounds like what you're describing is some kind of like God-given conviction.
Yes.
Right? To resist what is wrong, right? To stand up for what is wrong. So a sense of justice that's outside of like what is socially normal seems like it would be important. So here's my next question. And because I've been listening to your voices now, and I know y'all have some really good things to say. Have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter in conversations about justice?
Not for me personally, no. I feel like a lot of the social justice issues that I do fight over, like recently, I attended a protest when it was talking about how the ICE trucks were coming around Charlotte and going to different counties and getting immigrants, whether they were born here or not, because I have a lot of friends that are immigrants that either their parents immigrated here or they're not from here and then they immigrated to America. So then I felt really personal to me. So then I went out to a protest, and I protested about in Uptown a couple months ago. So that was a very big moment for me. I felt like my voice was heard. That was just.
So Nigel, for you, was that one of the first protests that you participated in?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you said that you were compelled because, there are people who are your friends that are connected to that issue, that topic. And for other people who are hearing this, right? Let's say for a parent who's listening, because that's most likely out what is.
Yeah.
So for a parent who's listening, who might feel anxious about their 18-year-old Black son participating in a protest, what would you say?
I would say just continue to stay informed and be aware. And I think it's just you need to be precautious because you're going to be looked at differently, and you do have a chance of being targeted being a Black male in America, especially if you're by yourself or you're around other people that do look like you, which I was. I was around, at the protest, I was around a lot of Black people, a lot of Hispanic people predominantly. So it's just a large group of minorities. And we did have a run-in with a Trump supporter that was trying to cause issues as we were protesting. So things like that are always possible, but it's just about making sure you're aware of your surroundings. That's something my dad always stresses to me, just being aware of things that are happening around you and don't get caught off guard because things can go down like very quickly.
For sure.
So it's just about being observant, paying attention, and staying safe when you are doing things like protesting.
Yeah.
fighting for social
And so you
justice.
mentioned kind of a run-in with someone who was obviously had a different perspective. What did that run-in look like? And what were your feelings about it?
It was this lady. She had come up. She was just saying. She just started ranting about Trump. She was saying a lot of racist things. But thankfully, the security that was at the protest, like we had the police kind of like on the outskirts patrolling, making sure everything was going according. So they took care of it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the protesters were like arguing back with her, but it was just a reminder that it's like, even though we are out here and even though we do have some protection from the police, we're not immune to being attacked by people with different viewpoints. And it is unfortunate that we did have to deal with that, but we know we were fighting for what was right. We were fighting for the rights of the immigrants that were there, which is always a good cause.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about justice and protest, right? So there are parts of the church in America, specifically like the historic Black church in America, that has a long history of powerful public protests, training in it, and actually making significant progress because of it. What is your understanding of protests? And do you think that protests should be engaged by people who are Christians?
I would say yes. I think fighting against injustice, no matter like what it is, no matter who it affects, is the right thing to do. So protesting should be a normal thing for everybody, I believe. If we can reach that point, then we can truly achieve justice in most places. So especially in the church, because we're called to love everybody as ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that the church, especially Christians, should be protesting,
Mm-hmm.
if not helping out in their community, trying to make things better.
Gotcha. Thanks, John. How about you?
I agree with that because like there are laws and such that do help people,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, if there are issues, not much is going to change unless the people actually get together and try to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So this question is about your experience when you see injustice on TV and you see justice in school or in social media. How does that make you feel? And what does it cause any kind of emotional wear and tear, issues of injustice that when there's an injustice happening to people who look like you or remind you of yourself? What is the impact that has on you?
When I see injustice, it kind of just like, it just makes me feel angry that people who, like, even people like my age are being treated this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are being treated for no reason, just how they look, things that they can't control, like things that they were born with, they're being treated differently.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it needs to change, and every time I see it, it makes me want to change it more and more.
So it's an anger that compels.
Yes.
It's an anger that kind of pushes you forward, right? And so, are there other types of anger that could be unhealthy?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
what would that look like? I mean, I don't think anger. I'm neutral on anger. I think anger has a purpose. So, so we know that anger can kind of compel and push forward. But is there another form of anger that can turn into something that could be more toxic when you're seeing these images?
Yes, I definitely think that if you are going to protest, it should turn violent.
Mm-hmm.
We should, as MLK was trying to convey to everyone in the civil rights movement, if you just strike back with violence, the same thing that they're using against us, then it's just going to create a cycle and it's never going to end.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're on the like fighting for justice, violence shouldn't be your main method.
Yes. Okay. So anger to compel to do something, but not anger to become like that very violent thing that's causing harm. Gotcha. Any other thoughts that y'all want to chime in about?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. When you see injustice happening, especially injustice involving people who remind you of yourself or look like you, we can think about the last decade of images of particularly unarmed men of color, unarmed Black men being killed, and seeing those images nonstop, right? And the impact that it had on people. Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You tracking me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so what what might your emotional response be to that? And what might our listeners need to know about the way that those types of images and experiences impact you?
It's very upsetting. It's very frustrating to see it on a pretty consistent, constant basis. You see it on the news, you see it on social media, you see it in real life, and it's just a constant stream of violence and a lot of anger. And it's also unfortunate when it happens to people that are close to you or people that you know, because I had a friend who was being confronted by ICE agents while he was just walking home in his neighborhood, being confronted by a whole truck of ICE agents. And it's unfortunate because he's an immigrant. So hearing that, and it's just like it hits a different part of your soul when it's like, this is somebody I see every day,
Right.
like about to be taken away. And it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's painful.
It is.
It's painful. What would you guys say?
It's definitely upsetting, especially when you think about, because it's not really something that's you can permanently get rid of. Because yeah, you can make laws, things will change, but ultimately, you can't force people to believe something. So unless people choose to change on their own, it's never really gonna go away. So knowing that like you're gonna have to consistently deal with that, it can be discouraging at times.
Yeah. So Coretta Scott King, and there are others who have said something similar to this as well, that every generation fights for justice. Like it's a generational burden that you have to continue to resist. You have to continue to persist. Like it never ends. It's kind of that perspective that she had. So here's my last question. And we really want to get your opinion on this. What does it look like for teens like you to lead the work of justice today? What would your leadership look like in response to injustice? And I think to the point that you raised, Nigel, earlier, that I think that we need to create the space to hear the voices, particularly of older teens and young adults. And in every culture and every society, that's actually who makes the biggest social changes. Some of it is about brain science. Like that tends to be who's the boldest people in society and the most creative. People who are older are thinking about like their healthcare plan and things like keeping their job, right? And so people who have those like beautiful, younger, creative brains tend to be the people that are most likely to say like, I'm going to protest. Like I'm going to push back, right? And so we saw that in the civil rights movement when you had people who were as young as 10 and 11 and 12, but certainly college students of color really led the way. So what would it look like for teens to lead the work of justice now? And what do you think some of those first steps would be?
I think some of those first steps, well, the difference between our generation and past ones is that we have social media as a massive tool, which allows us to have a much larger outreach than generations past, because we get to reach a much wider audience, both domestically and internationally, to raise awareness about issues that are happening, which I think is very important. So I think utilizing, because I know a lot of people will see social media as almost a strictly negative thing, but it of course has its positives as well.
Sure.
And one of them is being able to reach people on a much larger scale. So I think using social media for good to, like if you have an issue that you want to fight about and you want other people to know, you want other people to come together and protest with you or to talk about it, then creating those spaces, creating those communities, and having a certain outreach and a certain influence to be able to do that, to get people to recognize what you're doing. I think that's a very powerful tool to have. And I think it's something that we can all use to our disposal. It's something I used for my disposal because I was asking some of my friends who were also talking about the ICE raids, and I invited them to come protest with me. And I was just spreading the word about it and spreading protests and letting people know what was happening. So using social media for that purpose, when you have an issue that you want to fight about, I think is a very powerful thing to be able to have.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Thanks, Nigel. How about you, John?
Yeah, I agree with Nigel. Social media was just originally meant to be used as a tool, strictly. So if you can use it as such to make things right, then you should, I believe. So with our generation, especially leading in civil rights and activism, we can definitely take to social media by spreading the word, helping other young people be aware of the injustice that's going on in the world. This doesn't apply to younger members of Gen Z like myself, but like if you're of voting age,
Yeah.
we make up a decent like chunk of voters.
For sure.
So especially in years to come, so we should be voting as much as possible.
Yeah. So John, when you're saying that, that sounds to me like you recognize that it's not the only way to engage, but there is some sense of optimism that we still need to engage the vote
Yes.
to go about making justice happen.
100%. Yes.
Okay, got you. What would you say to someone who is your age or maybe older, like maybe under 25, who feels like voting has no point whatsoever? It's just a whole lot of money out there. What's the point of it? Why should I engage with it? What would you say to them?
If you don't want to vote, then I still believe that you should. You should just stop and think which option would be best for me, which option would be best for my family, for people who look like me. Like, just figure out what would benefit you in the future, because if it doesn't affect you now, who you pick will affect other people's choices and other leaders in the future, and it'll definitely affect you when you're older.
Yeah.
So having the freedom to choose that now is a great privilege that our ancestors fought for. So we should definitely use it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Jay, how about you? Your thoughts about, if you were thinking about people in your generation engaging issues of injustice, what in leading the work of justice? We talked about social media. We talked about voting. What would you say your generation should be doing right now to lead the work of justice?
I think a big part of it is going to be like just people being informed, because true, there's not as much we can do right now compared to older people who can like vote, work for the government, such like that. But you know, if we get informed now, then as we get older, we'll have more power and authority to actually make change. And even if it doesn't directly affect us, it'll affect the people coming after us, so they won't be in the same exact situation we're in. So even if it's not much, things will be at least a little bit better for them.
Got you. That's super helpful. Well, I'm really grateful for both these panels that told us a lot about their perspectives on justice. So give it up for our second panel. Thank y'all so much.